good evening or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Naoko Mabon, a curator based in Oban, and I'm facilitating today's event, which is the, as Verity said, the second conversation event of the Nurturing Creativity Piece by Piece project funded by Creative Scotland. The project is the 2022 program of EcoCreative Cluster project, which started last year. EcoCreative Cluster is a project focusing on natural dyeing, which involves two strands of activities. The first strand is led by Oban-based textile artist Deborah Gray, and developing a community dye garden in the grounds of the Rockfield Center with local volunteers, which is in full bloom just now. And the second strand is a network weaving strand led by myself and virtually meeting practitioners from different localities in the world who also work on natural dyeing. And the artist we meet today is Jessica Giannotti. Jessica is an Italo-Venezuelan person living in Scotland since 2005, with a background in marine science and fashion entrepreneurship. In 2013, Jessica founded Crùbag, which is a lifestyle brand dedicated to spreading ocean literacy through beautifully crafted textile prints and products. As well as the overview of Crùbag, today Jessica will share with us about her recent exploration in a natural dye using local seaweed. And after Jessica's presentation, I will ask a few questions to Jessica before opening up the floor to invite questions from the audience. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We can come back to that, or you can kind of think about what to ask later on. So thank you very much. And so welcome, Jessica, and I'll over to you.
Hi, everyone. Lovely meeting you all, and thank you for attending the conversation today. Yes, so just to start to give you an introduction, and thank you, Naoko, for the introduction. I study marine science here in Scotland. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and I work with horses, and then I worked as a management consultant for many years. But then I wanted to go back to my childhood dream, which is to study marine biology, but I was already a mature student, and I had the opportunity to come to Scotland. I studied here. I also met my now husband in Berlin. He was studying Gaelic here in the Isle of Skye. So I kind of started to build my life here, and I studied marine science at SAMS, at the Scottish Association for Marine Science. And after, while I was a student, I was looking down the microscope and I was seeing all these amazing images from the deep sea, from phytoplankton. And then I realized that, you know, that was a huge privilege and that our world was so much bigger than we normally see. And I had that desire to share that beauty, and I was having ideas. My mom, she's an artist in Venezuela, and I used to paint and I used to draw when I was a child. So I think I started to have ideas of designs and dream about it. And then I realized that I had this kind of mission to do that, to share the unseen beauty of the planet, the knowledge of the ocean. And once I graduated, I started Crùbag, which is Gaelic for crab. The logo is a field crab from the mangroves. So it's a combination of Scotland, heritage, and Venezuela. So the initial idea was to create beautiful designs paired with ocean literacy content. I can quickly show you. Let me do the screen share. This is our website. So I didn't prepare like a proper presentation. I have some slides to show you some images, but I will jump in and out because I think it's nice to have this as an informal talk and conversation. So this is the website where we create scarves in collaboration with marine scientists, and we pair these scarves with the ocean literacy content. So we started working with seaweed as our first project. So the first collection that we created was the Gachon collection. ocean, which is a story about algae and pathogens and how algae as a host interacts with the pathogen, a beautiful omiseed that is like a fungus. It's a type.
For me, when Mark was doing the last bit of fencing, there was bits offcuts and things, and that's all she wanted to.
I think so, yes. And then we created this project, and then we created these designs as scarves. And the scarves, so you can see these are different. These are all patterns. We use microscopy images of the algae, a brown seaweed called Ectocarpus. And this, I'll show you here, this is a bigger picture. You can see this is the real image, which I made a simple pattern. This is how the pathogen looks when it's filled with spores. So there is so much beauty in nature, and it's about presenting the ocean as a system rather than just focusing on one single organism. But you know, this is the interactions of the ecology in the ocean. And here you can go, if you go to the blog, you can read about the science story of the collection. So this is, let's go back down. You can read here in the second page. So you can explore the website and read the science stories as well as look at the textiles. And I think that combination of art with design, fashion, and textiles is it makes a holistic approach, because you use your heart and mind, and also you use you read a story, you learn about the ocean, but also you have a piece of cloth that is become parts of your identity. And so this now relates to the current project that we're working on. So here is the story. You can have a look later. So then we are trying to evolve now from being design-based and storytellers to also work with materials and try to develop new sustainable materials from the ocean. And being based at SAMS, which is the Scottish Association for Marine Science, because I never left. So after graduating, I started Crùbag, and I've been very fortunate to be based at the institute. And yes, so having access to you know, the specimens, the scientists, the ocean, all the knowledge, it's been over the years been an accumulation of skills and learning process. And then I realized that we could do more. So originally we wanted to explore the creation of bioplastics from algae, and we tried to look into that project. And then SAMS asked us to be the project partners for a dye-based project. So where with SAMS would extract the pigments, and then we will work on the fixation on textiles. That first initial project, which had funding through Algae UK, went well. We had a dye which was really nice. I can show you. So let me do the second screen share. Just 1 second, please. So here. Just one moment. Make it play. So when we started this project, it was all about finding sustainable methods of extraction, so solvent-free methods of extraction. And we used a red algae called Palmaria palmata among other species, and then we had a very pale solution. Although we didn't have a very successful dye in the initial stage, it was a great project because it gave us a baseline. It gave us a baseline to keep working on. Then we had the invitation to participate at Futures Fabrics Expo in London by Sustainable Angle, which is one of the biggest business-to-business trade show in the fashion industry for sustainability and for materials for the supply chain. So we have to go back, and I was working with Professor Michelle Stanley from SAMS, and we decided to go to do a second batch. And I went into the sea. I got some algae. Just 1 second, see if I can share you with you. So share video. I don't know if you can see the video. Just one moment. It's not showing me the video. Okay, let's stop sharing. Now the videos disappear. Okay, so let me put them up again. Okay. We just did the test and it worked perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's
okay.
typical, isn't it?
Typical, yeah, yes, here we are. So here is it's not a professional video. This is just me struggling and trying to do everything at the same time. So let's move it forward a little. So this is me trying to collect algae, and this is something we're going to talk about as well later, about how sustainable is to harvest or not, and where is the biomass coming from. But for small quantities, for the initial test, it was fine. I went down at the back beach, so the second back beach in the Staffnage, and I collected some of the red algae. This is the Palmaria palmata, which is attached to the green algae. And I was collecting it and then putting it in a cotton bag. And I just took less than a kilo or so for the first tests. And this is the area, which is the local area, and it's great because we are working with a local seaweed. So then the project was about, let me do back to the slides. So the project evolved, and then I realized, okay, we collected the seaweed, and Michelle was coming and supervising my work. And it was all about how we can extract the dyes and make a viable dyeing solution for textiles. So we repeat everything, like I mentioned before, we didn't use any solvents, and it was all natural, and we worked with the algae, and we were really successful the second time. This is the color that we obtained, and depending on how we change the process, we would have a darker or a brighter color, more purple color, or a more redder color. And here we have this interesting range of this color palette of beautiful pinks and reds. And this is a color that is very hard to get. Also, we were very, very excited because we could actually, so this pigments, this dye solution is quite stable. So I exposed it to daylight, to UV light. We kept it for weeks, and it's not rotting. The pH is stable, and it's not fading under the daylight and not on the UV light. So we have here a very successful product, and I was able to test it on cotton, on silks, and merino wool. So after I did the washing test, which was based on cold water and warm water with very delicate soap, and the color stay on the material. Now that doesn't mean that the fixation is perfect or that will work with stronger detergents. So we need to go to the next stage, which is repeat the results and then further develop a fixative method with it, because we didn't use any mordants, we didn't use anything at all. So this is like really, really exciting. But how can we create a dye that stays on the fabric, and then you can wash the fabric and you can use it, and then it stays, and then understanding the properties and what are the possible applications. And then I was able to showcase the Seadyes at Future Fabric Expo. I was also a panelist to discuss bio feedstocks and the future of fashion. And they also, it was really lovely because they took one of our scarves for the exhibition of climate and biodiversity. So you can see how marine science and fashion are coming together. When I started, that was like niche and people didn't really see the combination. But now the industry and the people that love fashion are starting to see how marine science makes sense, because we are trying to understand how our planet works. People are talking more about microplastic pollution, petroleum-based economy, climate change. So now it's a great time, and it's a great momentum also to develop sustainable materials from the ocean. And here you can see these are the dye materials that we tested. So we have some silks and organic silks and very, very fine cotton and merino wool. And this is one of this pocket square here that you see with the print. So the printed letters were digitally printed, and we had these white silk pocket squares. And I just wanted to test how would that interact with the print, and if I could dye a finished product. And that worked really well. We had this soft pink, and I was really happy with it. Yes, and this is about creating a dye that we can use on textiles that is based on a local seaweed species, and also that it can be scaled. Yes,
that's beautiful. Is that, I know you're in the development stage, so maybe some bits you don't want to share just yet, but is that basically boiling seaweed to extract? Or?
Well, that was kind of applying some heat, but that was just testing some fixations the first time. So this is like showing the process when we started. So I can show you also another video. Let me put it up, just 1 second. Let's see if I can do the screenshot. So here what we do, so I started first looking at the algae that I collected. I also collected some other, separating the green algae, the red algae from the rest, and looking at the materials and trying to separate it. And so it's all very manual work, very hands-on work. This is how it looks when you collect it. And then, yes, so the first time it was just creating this very weak solution, but the dyes that we have now are very strong, so they don't require the kind of quantity of liquid and the boiling. It was just the first test that we did. I think it's important to keep doing your tests if you are all practitioners. So, I'm not an expert, so I'm just going to be honest about it. If I think about Deborah or Leaf, they have all these amazing years of experiences. So I just took my knowledge in marine science and fashion and wanting to develop a material that I'm very focused on the red algae. But on dyeing, I think it's about doing different tests and finding out what works for you and the materials that you have, and trying to observe and understand the properties of the material rather than just applying protocols and methods that are standardized for everything.
I see. Yeah, now I try to remember what Deborah was saying. I think there are main stages, maybe Susan, who is here, she's also expert in natural dyeing, might help. But I think the stage was that, as you say, extraction of color, and then the putting the color into some material and then fixing it.
Yes.
Stages. And extraction, well, I don't ask too much because some bits you're still working on it, I think. But when you extract the color, you need to fix it. And then when you fix, I guess that you need some kind of bonding agent to.
Yes, but in this case, so let's say we have the different stages. We have sourcing the biomass or finding a suitable biomass, and then we have the extraction, which can be different for different algae, different type of algae. And here we did a solvent-free extraction, and then we have the fixation. So with the fixation, it's about, so some people use more than some fixative, but in our case, because this is a pigment, this is not like a chlorophyll or a beta carotene or like land-based pigments. This is like protein-based pigment. It's in many cases it's an accessory pigment, and I think there is a lot of affinity between the proteins in the dyes and the fibers if they're natural fibers. So it's understanding how the different properties can work together, and then understand, because the less you add, the less you intervene with plants and other materials that we've been working for centuries, and even seaweed, like this is not new, to be honest. But there are more like stronger materials with algae, and especially the red algae. They're very delicate, fragile, so it's very hard to work with them. They would fade quickly, they would be destroyed. You add the traditional mordants to the red algae and it just, the pigments disappear. So it's about understanding the algae and understanding how it works, and then understanding the chemical and biological properties of your material, and then experimenting. Sometimes you just need a bit of luck as well, and then talking to experts, so in this case, I think collaboration is key. For me, it's collaborating with Sam, collaborating with Michelle. She has a wealth of knowledge about seaweed cultivation, biotechnology, microbiology. So in my case, I also have the grit and the will to try everything and keep at it. And I think that also because the right times, you have the access to, it's also being at the right place at the right time, having the right people, the right skill sets, and being there where the sources are, the biomaterials. And I think Crùbag is at this interface between marine science and fashion. So we just did it because we can. So this is a...
Yeah, no, I like how you metaphorically saying about the Crùbag. It's a lens to where we can see through the world differently. Like through Crùbag we can see the science.
Yes.
We see the creative side as well.
And it's also about, so if I can go a bit deep, but it's also about love. It's about connection, because I think that when I talk about Crùbag, what I try to do is to not to share only the knowledge and beauty of the ocean, but to share that love, to inspire people to feel, to have a deeper connection with nature, with themselves, because we are all part of nature. For the last couple of 100 years, we've been separating ourselves from nature, but we are part of the ecosystem. We are animals, we are natural beings. And then having that, I think when you are connected with other people, when you are connected with nature, when you are connected in yourself and grounded, is I think when we can do good and do good work. And I think having that philosophical aspect and ethical, and also for some people even religious, you know, if you believe in God or if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter. It's about, you know, about being connected to something bigger than yourself. And then how can we apply that in a practical world where we have to be more conscious? How can we make more thoughtful products? How can we work within the boundaries of nature, respecting the carrying capacity of the ecosystems? How can we do that? Because we are facing major challenges nowadays in terms of climate change and societal changes, geopolitical changes. But it's not the first time that we work with algae. So I think it's very important also, yes, being positive and enthusiastic and innovate, but also remain critical and remain aware that, you know, natural doesn't mean always it's good or it's better. You have the situation, for example, with Harry's tweed, this amazing cloth that it used to be dyed with natural flowers and plants, and they had to move to synthetic dyes because some of the plants and flowers were in risk of going extinct. So I think understanding where your crops or where your natural materials come from, and in this case, it was about using an algae that is locally available and in small quantities, yes, harvest, but if we need to scale up production, then I'm not keen on taking that from a natural environment unless you can be sure this is done responsibly. Ideally, you will grow your algae, you would work with a seaweed farm or culture it in tanks, and then make a crop, and then use the crop instead of using, and then find a circular model. Maybe you can use the biomass that you have as a byproduct for other things, make paper or make plastics or make yarn. And I think this is like, if we start to think about the materials that we have and how can we be sustainable that way, and making these small steps and incrementals in becoming a better at it.
Yeah, no, that interesting around the scale. I myself concerned about the scale, not concerned, but seeing the recent development around seaweed. It's quite rapid growth there. And then the SAMs, as you're saying, that they are developing the sea nursery, the seaweed nursery,
yes,
as well as the seaweed farm as well. And then, of course, I think some people are interested in scaling up to make it as a new industry, which is some part of the world, for instance, Japan, where I'm from, it's one successful industry. But you know, scaling up, as you're saying, that to the industrial scale, that I think we need to be careful, because we know, we have experience how scaling up things could disrupt our natural environment and other things
yes.
in the past. So yeah, how you are seeing the recent development around seaweed? You know, there are lots of
Yeah. Yes, I think there is like a recent boom, and I think there is also organizations are raising awareness and in creating demand for seaweed based products. I think, like, if you look at the United Nations sustainability goals, you know, where you balance, you know, living on the water, living organism on the water, but also sustainable growth and a thriving economy. I think that we have to move away from land as much as we can. We need the land for crops, for food. Also, there are these new developments in vertical farming where this is also supporting the kind of green revolution based in technology and innovation. Seaweed is also great because it kind of oxygenates the ocean. It is a natural, it stores carbon naturally. but that doesn't mean that carbon is not released back into the environment once the product life, the life cycle of the product ends. So I think understanding what kind of product, if you create furniture made of seaweed that it lasts 100 years, you're storing carbon for longer than if you're just making a fast fashion product that you will throw away after a week. So I think understanding the products, but also the scale, and in this case, are we working for a more luxury market or mass market? And I think that if you work with sustainable aquaculture, where you have, smaller size seaweed farms, and Scotland has a huge capacity for a sustainable aquaculture industry and a thriving blue economy. I think it's just about combining the science knowledge with the development. So you get excited, you have these ideas, but you also need the science to back up your assumptions about, how is this sustainable, having environmental impact assessments and understanding who are your suppliers, how is your supply chain, and what happens to your product after the life cycle. What are you making? And we were discussing the other day, what about we use, for example, invasive species as a biosource, but then so invasive species like algae that is, and I spoke to Kyla Orr, she has a seaweed farm in Skye, and she said to me, that sounds great in theory, Jessica, but then you will be creating a whole industry based on a finite resource that when the seaweed, that when you extract the invasive species, then you have a collapse of the industry, and then you create a new problem. So I think it's understanding the long-term implications of what you're doing. And I think this is about working with policymakers, working with industry and scientists together, and then explore innovation on a smaller scale, prove the concept, do a lot of research, and then scale up in a thoughtful way. But I think there is potential, but we have to be smarter. We need to try not to repeat the same mistakes from the past when we got excited about soya or palm oil. There's still very, very amazing organic palm oil farms, but there are also large farms that destroy the jungle and the habitat for the organisms. So yeah, I think there is a green revolution on the way and a material revolution, but we have to be smarter, and we have to test, and we have to be thoughtful about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as you were saying that the seaweed is not a new thing for especially this part of the world in Scotland. And are you doing kind of heritage research or?
No, I've been reading, so I would like to know. I think there are other people like Rihanna. She's the head of the Seaweed Academy at SAMS. She did her thesis about the history of the seaweed use in Scotland or the UK. I'm not sure. So I think that there've been some booms in the past and then declines in the industry where you have the extraction of different valuable materials. Also in Japan, I heard recently that the Japan has been growing seaweed for a long time, but now the industry is declining because of aging population, the lack of new people to take over, and also decreased demand. So these are factors that we need to understand, and finding better alternative to plastic, better alternative to petrochemicals, but still how we remain sustainable and thoughtful. So this is a tricky time that we are in, but it's an exciting one. So I think it would be good. I would love to learn more about the seaweed industry in the past and how it has evolved. I think there is a strong seaweed industry also in France and in Portugal. The whole area of the North Atlantic is very rich with different species of seaweed. And also you have a place like in Israel where they grow it on land-based tanks. So there are different places where you can learn about it. But yeah, it's just the beginning of the journey at this moment.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'll gently inserting my question, my bullet point, but as you were saying, the Japanese relationship with seaweed, I've heard I joined in one talk event where Japanese seaweed experts talking about that they are using very specific seaweed from specific locality in the north of Japan, and of course because of the climate change, the yield, the amount of the seaweed they can catch, that's really changing because the certain seaweed likes colder water, which is not quite existing. I mean, it's moving. So yeah, they are talking about that. Oh, I'm really they are very concerned about that the future.
Yes.
Of
this is very interesting, and I think climate change is going to have an impact on many industries, because you have these changes, these rapid changes. I also heard a while back, because you have a huge seaweed industry that is based on harvesting in the White Sea. And there is a bigger runoff of sediments because of climate change and also forestry activities, and that is impacting the growth of the seaweed. So how are we interacting with the environment, and the different industries interact with each other? I think this is also a point. We just have to do the best we can, and then adapt to these changes. I think climate change is here. We had yesterday the hottest day ever recorded. This is not in 10 years like we were thinking is going to happen. Climate change is here, and it's now, and it's real. So we have to see how this will impact the industry. And also you have other problems like bioethics, biosecurity, disease, how that, when you cultivate algae, how how this will contribute to the spread of the disease. And I think there is a lot of work being done at the moment on that front. One of my concerns that I had, that I was talking about in London, is that there are many young designers and career starters that are very excited about algae. So what I would say is, if you want to work with algae and you buy algae or you order your species, make sure you don't put them down the sink when you're done, especially if you're working with microalgae and non-native species, because you can be introducing an invasive species into the local environment, and that could be devastating. So be aware of that as well.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. Little bit of change of topic, but may I ask your relationship or engagement with your own locality? I know, you are engaged with the local people or locality. Yeah, so since I came to Scotland, something happened to me, because so I was born and grew up in Venezuela, by the Caracas. We are at the close to the Caribbean Sea, but my mom is from the Indian region. So I've been, Venezuela is quite biodiverse and geodiverse country. You have the mountains, the jungle, the ocean, but I'm half Italian. So my dad is Italian. I also grew up, I went to an Italian school. I spoke Italian with my grandparents and my dad. So I always had a European side of me as well. And then when I was a show jumper, I emigrated to Spain, and I worked with horses in Spain. My mom's family, although from Venezuela, originally came from Spain. So it's a bit all a mix. And in Spain, from there, I went to Germany, and I worked there for many years as well. And before I came to Scotland. And when I came to Scotland, I was so it was like an emotional shock. The beautiful people and place, the landscape, the constant sense of awe, especially on the West Coast, because you drive to, I started living in the Isle of Skye, where my husband was studying Gaelic, and it was just, you go to the Kellys, you dance, and you have these sessions at the pub. It was like going back to a home I never knew I had. It was that place where I felt at home right away, and I felt welcome and embraced and loved. And then you start to expand, because you are not worrying about surviving, or you're not in danger, or Venezuela is a very dangerous country, or in Germany you have this very high pressure. I think, when I came, I took some time to kind of just be, and then starting my studies. At the time, I enrolled in environmental heritage studies, but I was missing science too much. So that's when I decided to move to study marine science, which was my original dream. But it was like my soul expanded. Then I started to see what was possible. Then I became a student again. I was a bit older than most students in my class. And I really enjoyed learning about, Scotland, and learning. There were some part of the history that were painful, like the clearances and the history. Scotland is such a powerful yet humble country at the same time, where you have creativity, but you also don't talk, you try not to be too out there, because you want to be humble and nice. But there is this authenticity around,
around people, the music and culture. Here is one of the few places in Europe where culture is still quite very alive and is part of everyday life for many people. You know, we have a piper here that, you know, practice the pipes in the afternoons. You can hear piping. So it's really like, you know, this is, but then when I started studying, I saw the other side, the high, you know, the high technology, the advanced side of, you know, the scientific quality, and people that came here to work from all over the world were amazing scientists, and the teaching was great. And then you go diving, you go hill walking, and then you go to a Gali concert and or mass. It's just the beauty of all these different aspects of the cultural life that develop a strong sense of place. So when I started Crùbag, I decided it has to be Scottish. It's a Scottish company, a Scottish soul, but also with a global outlook and a bit of a Venezuelan personality. And this is what I try to reflect, and working with Seadyes and the natural dyes, the collaboration. So every project we do is a collaboration with local scientists. We work with the primary school children. I can show you the project page quickly. So we did this beautiful project with Taino Primary School, where we were able to work with the kids and some, so the children had some lessons and workshops around microplastics. And then we ran with Renuka Ramanujan, we ran some art workshops about monoprinting and collaging, and they created these beautiful designs which we converted into notebooks, and we printed those designs into notebooks, and then you can read the story. So every child shares the story. Where is it here? So you can see here, this is every kid shared the story about their design. So they were processing what microplastic pollution meant to them. Some were very positive about the future, some were a bit more, you know. So we had tears when we were filming because we didn't censor the kids. We let them express their views and ideas. We filmed, there is a video on our YouTube channel about it, where all the children in the classroom share the views of the future. And that was really touching. And working with local teachers, working with local scientists, with artists, and now with Seadyes, we're working with the local marine environment as well, not just by using the science images and science output from science, but also using the algae that we collect and that we hopefully will farm or buy from farmers in the future, which is great. It's that strong sense of place that we can work with Scotland, and this is a local material that is sustainable, that is beautiful and better than plastic.
Oh, that's great. No, what I like about Crùbag is that it's not as we were talking before, you were saying that through your creative practice or the product, we can learn things, but we are not told, you know, what to do. It's a very gentle way to learn the very core science, you know, hardcore science. And then it really like, lends to see the different side of the world. Do you have, one aim we have for this event is to weave the natural dye network further. And can you give us a name of one practitioner who you are already in connection with? And
absolutely, yes. So I'll share also, because these are people that I just met in London, and I was so, not this, sorry. Just one moment, too many screens. I think the beauty about collaboration and finding others, because yes, some people compete with each other, but it's about sharing and collaborating is so important. I don't know if you can see, this is the post-carbon lab. I met DJ and Lynn, or she calls herself DJ, and Hannes, and they have this place in London where they experiment. This is not algae from the sea. This is freshwater algae from ponds and from rivers, and they work with algae. They don't show the work on the website, but they work with, so they're called Post-Carbon Lab, and they use algae and create microalgae and create bioprinting. So they inject the algae into the fabric, which is really fascinating. I just found this really. They create like a solution from the algae, but they would not. I'm sure they're better in describing it. And they bioprint it, like you can touch it, like it's like they print a line or a flower or a pattern. It's almost like embroidery. It feels a bit like embroidery. And they also dye fabric. So they have this minty green color, which is very beautiful. And I just saw they're very creative, we're hoping to collaborate in the future. We became friends, so we've been chatting most days now since we met. So it's like soulmates. But yeah, very interesting work. And so I'm looking forward to see what they come up with. I think we lost you. We lost Naoko. Are you there? Okay, you're back. We lost you for a moment.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Verity just.
We lost her.
They put the website to this. We can have a look. Oh?
Yes, it's all in the chat.
Yeah, I've put the website in the chat.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's I don't know if I understood the injecting.
Well, I think they're not. Yes, I saw some samples and it looks like a relief, like the pattern is print on top, so it's like attached, but it's not a dye. They also dye, but this was more like a printing, almost like a plastic thing, but it's the algae. It's very beautiful, very interesting. I saw these prototypes and I was impressed.
Oh, interesting. Well, I feel like we chatted quite a lot, so it's time to open up the floor. So if you have questions, please pop in the chat, or you can use you can raise hand and then ask questions. But is that sounds like microalgae thing? Is that similar to maybe lichen? Using the lichen dye, maybe different.
Well, lichen has algae in it, but yes, people use lichen as well as dye. I think they use macroalgae collected from rivers. Yes, I'll ask him because I'm not sure about the details.
Oh, that's wonderful. If you have any questions or to ask Jessica, please feel free to do.
Shall I open with one of my questions?
Yes.
Mine's just a simple case. We've kind of covered it, but I wondered maybe if you could summarize it. Why do you do the work that you do? Like, what really motivates you to create what is a new project, a new product, and exploring the science?
I think it's my purpose, my calling, to connect people with the natural environment and share that knowledge of the ocean. And to love the environment. I think we all crave for love. We all crave for that connection, and we all part of this natural environment. And I think being more aware of that connection. And this is the only planet we got. So I think if we can learn about our planet, be empowered with knowledge, celebrate its beauty, feel that joy, because it's not just about the science, it's also about the joy of the colors, of the designs. You're looking at, some of my scarves are based on shells that are found deep in the seamounts, in the west coast of Scotland, or from algae, and there are different things, but this is all our planet. This is our only home. It's amazing, it's beautiful, it's diverse, it's different in every aspect. Everywhere you look, you see something different, and I think it's a much bigger planet that we see because we are not on the water. We cannot see that, so it's like making the invisible visible. And that sharing that love, enthusiasm, and passion, and having that sense of awe. So it's all about love and science and beauty for our planet, our natural world, for the ocean, and kindness for ourselves.
Oh, that's a perfect answer. And next we've got a question from Mari Scott, who says, does the time of year and location of seaweed source determine the colours that you can make?
This is a very good question, Mari. I still don't know because we need to repeat the tests, but I would think so. Yes. Also, depending in the growth phase. So at what time you're using the algae, and how much biofouling, and how much growth, and how much into maturity has gone. And I also think that there might be some variations between different genetic streams. and also stressors. If these are more, you know, if this is a smaller algae that has been bouncing more against the rocks, or is a more stable, in a stable place, I think that also, because pigments are also protective substances, so I think probably how much stress the algae is will also affect the output of the color. But it would be good to test how this all make different, how this is, if we can have a constant or not. And it could be also part of the story. You'll never get the same color.
And then our next question we have is from Susan Martin, who's actually going to do a talk with us as well. She says, do you use seawater when you're extracting and applying your dye?
And I did some tests with it, yes, but the dyes that we have don't have seawater. I did test with seawater. I also test with normal water, but I use it in the test phase. Doesn't mean it works, but it's good to experiment. Also different, it may work with greens, you know, green algae or brown kelps.
And does anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up, or just general information you'd like to ask Jessica? Oh, we've got one. Mari asked about your use of ammonias. Do you use them?
No.
I suspect, Mari, you or Bari, sorry, you do natural dyeing as well? Sounds like.
So here, Valerie's asking if
to unmute yourself now, Mari.
Okay. So Valerie's asking if we use what colors we produce. We at the moment it's very small focus on the red algae. So these are pinks and some reds.
Okay.
I would love to in the future, once this is on a path, I would like to see if we can make blues. The hardest colors, you know, try to see if we can find a way to make these colors that are hard to get in nature in a sustainable way.
And Mari, the question was whether you also do dyeing with seaweed.
Once last week.
Oh, okay.
I'm very,
this is good timing then.
Yeah, very newbie. So I used knotted kelp and serrated rack and also false Irish moss.
Ah, yes.
And I got some lovely colours out of them all. I've got the bottles here.
Oh, shucks.
You can't really see them in this light. It's a kind of reddy brown.
Yes.
Kind of reddy brown colour.
Yeah, brown. Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Wow,
that's really, really nice. But I use ammonium sulfate. Which
yes.
is probably a big no. It's not exactly environmentally friendly and so forth, but I'm just experimenting.
Oh, right.
Well, very good. Sounds really interesting. Yeah, we decided not to use chemicals because we wanted to in the, you know, when you start the first project, you have to compare the solvent-based extraction with solvent-free extractions. But from the beginning, we wanted to create a commercial solution that could be scaled and that is sustainable. So I approach it for like a puzzle rather than just a project that I wanted to, because I would love to experiment with all kinds of materials, substances, but I had limited time and energy, and I thought this is the key goal. No chemicals. Let's see if we can make it happen.
I did use mordants on the fibres and fabrics.
Okay.
And I did find that cottons and cheesecloths were not too good, but the wools took it beautifully.
Ah.
There really was strong colours.
Feel free to share some pictures with us of your fabric.
I've got them here. Wait to put the light on. So that's false Irish moss.
Ooh.
Again, gorgeous, gorgeous warm colours. Where am I?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Where are we? Serrated rack. I've got them all in poly pockets so I don't mix them up. So that's slightly lighter. Where are we?
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Serrated rack there in the fall.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Oh, beautiful.
So they're quite similar, but I would say that one's slightly lighter.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
And knotted kelp.
Kelp.
Lighter again. In fact, actually, I'm a lie. This is cotton. It actually took really, really nicely.
That looks really, really good.
Lovely, yeah.
Yes.
That was the wool that came from it. The
Yes.
merino wool.
Yes. I love merino wool. It's such a great material.
Oh, it's gorgeous. So that's been addicted.
Well done.
I live in Argyll, so it's the ideal place to go and pick up a wee bit of seaweed. So it's good fun.
Where in Argyll are you based?
Just outside Dunoon and Towers.
Yes, okay. No, not far from us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I sourced all of the seaweed.
Mhm.
And I froze it actually in February and then defrosted it last week. And it worked
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So
Oh, great. Please visit us one day.
I'd
Our
love
Thai
to.
garden.
I'd love to. But no, thank you for tonight. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have, two more questions that are kind of connected from Susan and Valerie for you,
Yes.
Jessica. You say that mordants don't work, but have you tried preparing cellulose fibers with a protein solution alternating with an alkali? And then Valerie's question is, how fast is the color without mordant?
Yes, so the color is fast when you do soft washing with delicate soap. We need to do tests with industrial tests with certification to see how it would be good to test, because we did a test with detergents that are bio detergents, the ones that you use in the wash machine, and that we had some fading with those detergents. But when you use little and cold or warm water and you wash it like you normally wash your delicates, we had very good stability, but these are very early stage tests, so we need to send these samples and repeat the results and then do proper test in a lab setting that is specialized for textiles. And the mordants, is not that they don't work, it's that the mordants that I tried didn't work with the red algae, they work with other seaweed types. And I wanted to see if I can develop a method without the use of mordant or additional chemicals, that's all. But of course you can use mordants. I don't know for these algae species, but for most of the seaweed, it works fine. And if you use a protein solution, yes, you can do the bio binders, that's no problem. But in our case, I was just trying to be as pure as possible. And then take from that, and then if we need to add anything, how are we going to source it sustainably, and that is also not harmful to the environment, and then work from, from the most basic and simple way, and then adding later if we have to improve our results.
Well, it's our last few minutes, so unless anyone else has any last questions, then I'll wrap up and then we'll tell you just a quick little bit about the talks we've got coming up.
So to me, this Susan's question, and well, everyone's question is very professional. Like, which mordant do you use, Susan? Usually, you don't use soy milk?
I've used a soya milk alternating with a wood ash water, so an alkali, to mordant cellulose fibers, which I believe is a technique used in Japan.
I should know better.
You have to dip them in the solutions and dry them and dip them in the alternate solution many times before you dye, but I have had interesting success with it. I've also dyed with lichens, and it looks as though the lady who showed us her samples, the colours I've had from lichens, which are an algae fungi combination, are similar to the colours that she produces, but with lichens you don't need a mordant because they have various acids in them, which are partly identifiers of them, which will make them fixed to the fibres, but they only work on protein fibres.
Very cool.
So I'm interested to see that you're having success on cellulose fibres.
Yeah, Susan is based in Wales. So it's quite different. It's interesting. It's different waters, but some things works the same.
Do you have any pictures of any samples there with you, Susan?
Not beside me here, no.
Okay, okay.
You'll have to wait till my talk.
I will. Yeah, yes, I could. Yes.
So I've just put up in the chat our upcoming free artist talks as part of the series. We've got Susan Martin, who's our next one. And then after that, we've got Living Blue in Bangladesh and Viru Konjo in Ethiopia. So going all around the world. And if you are based in Oban or coming down anytime soon, do check out our What's On, because there's lots of workshops. And as part of this series, we've also got a spoon carving workshop, environmental landscape painting workshop, and some more to be announced later in the year, in the autumn, that we haven't got on the website yet, but they are coming soon. But otherwise, I hope you have enjoyed the artist talk today and found it interesting. A big thank you to Naoko and of course to Jessica, and do join us next time for our next talk with Susan. And it's all available to book online, so at those links you can register your interest, and that means you get sent the Zoom link. So it's just the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know, I hope seems like I have a bad Wi-Fi today, but thank you, Verity, for all the support, and as usual, you're brilliant. And thank you, Jessica, for presenting today, and then everyone chipping in and joining today. That's really great. Thank you so much, and lovely comments as well.
Yes, thank you all for your comments, for being here, and Verity and Naoko for organizing this and the invitation.
And please do join the coming conversations, as Verity was saying.